use, then like our first thing is saving lives. And so when the Chabad rabbis had this meeting across the state of Houston, Texas, that was the discussion. How do we save lives? And thank God the Texas Chabads have been very united and very proactive, extremely proactive, and thank God they saved lives. It's like literally a difference between life and death. And so we have an achrayut, we have a responsibility to take care of people, to preserve life. Our goal here at Chabad is weekly to be dropping off a Shabbat package to, different few families. We're going to try to make sure that everyone, not families, but people, and we may not get to everyone all in 1 week, but because thank God it's a long list. If you know anyone in the community that could use an extra boost or an extra Shabbat love, a challah, feel free to message us. I know we're going to probably try to do around 5 a week. So this way we're able to still stay connected and still remind people that we're a community and we're a family and we're here for each other, even if it's via computer. So feel free to nominate someone or let us know. We're happy to do it. And that's a thought. And we're going to try to see if anyone else has any other creative ideas of how we can make sure that everyone still feels connected. We're open to ideas through the summer, but we're definitely not ready to risk lives. So no. Yeah. God, August. I know, again, a lot of the young students are like, why can't we? I'm like, whatever. I'm like, you know what? I can't expect them to have that big picture perspective and the big picture perspective and the long, the zoomed out view, right? I can't expect them to have that.
Well, a year in the life of someone who's 20 is about the equivalent of nearly 4 years of my life. So respect, less than yours, but right, perspective that way. Yeah.
I think that your perspective is very, very is tremendous, because what you're saying is 100% right. At the end of the day, we're only coming to things with our perspective, where we come from, right? So part of our work in life is to hear someone else's perspective, to see someone else's perspective, to understand someone else's perspective. And in a way, this situation that we're this unique, bizarre, whatever adjective you can use to describe the reality we're in right now, is very, very we have to see things differently. And like I said, for us, it's to understand the needs of the community. It's to understand the needs of the students. For us, it's to understand our own children's needs and our own needs, and really look inward and really fortify from inside out. And I don't think that that's simple, and I don't think that's easy, as all of us are experiencing, and it means different things to different people too. For Sarah, you're saying, as a senior citizen, this is something that means something different than it means to a college student whose graduation just got canceled, right? And or someone who's home now all day with kids and now is teacher and mom. I saw this comedian. She was saying, I don't believe you now at Parent Teachers Conference when you said my kids are a pleasure to teach. She said, they're not. They're not a pleasure. Your child has so much spunk. Now I know what you mean. Right? So as parents, we're getting a different perspective. I think the world will walk away from this maybe appreciating teachers a little bit more, a little bit more. So, but I think, Susanna, you have the right perspective of being positive. And I don't think it's easy. And I know, Sharon, you were saying you had an incident this morning. I was here late also because it was mass chaos. And then Sarah's like, oh, Manya, you're in a new location. I'm like, I know, I have to go and find the quiet spot of the day. There's not a guarantee that what we used last week or even last night is available right now. So we're just rolling with it. And sometimes better and sometimes worse,
But again,
yeah, go.
I was going to say, when early on, when we first started, started homeschooling, one of Connor's teachers called me, and I said, I don't understand how the teachers ever get through a school day getting all these assignments done. How? I said, I can barely get through one, maybe 1.5 in a whole day. How do they ever get through whatever 5, 6, 7, whatever they do? How do they get that many done? She was so kind. She actually tried to help me by creating a schedule. I couldn't adhere to it, but I tried really hard. She actually sent me a schedule of broken up of how to try and help Connor through his school day.
Right. I think that as parents, we have to be very forgiving to ourselves because we're not teachers that are in a structure. Our children are act differently. We have many more complex dynamics to our family dynamics and our home and our relationship. And I was actually describing this because I got a voice note from a Chabad rabbi. She says, how do you do this all day? Like how, whatever. And I said, look, there are two things I recognized very early on in having my children home more hours than most people do, without any cheters, without any schools, without any yeshivas, right? So there's two things I really, really resolved, and I really stick by it. Number one, I recognize that as a mom, if your kids are going out to school, right? So you have, let's say, 2 hours in the morning where you're shoving a granola bar or a yogurt or a pancake in their system, getting them out the door so they don't miss the bus, they don't miss the carpool, that they're out, right? And then you have a day where whether you're going to work or you're going to school or whatever you're doing, or you're taking care of life. Okay, but then the kid comes home. So let's say it's 2 hours in the morning and the kid comes home 4 o'clock, let's say. And then you have another, 4 hours, maybe 5 if your kids are up really late, where there's that, do your homework, put the laundry, take a bath, take a shower. Like I call it the nagging because it's where we're like, gotta do, moving them along in life, right? Okay, when you have your kids home all day, there's a lot more hours of nagging. So there's a lot more potential to damage that parent-child relationship. And so what I realized is I had to learn when to look away and not notice. And that's not easy. Number one. Number two, when to bite my tongue and not say things. I always say that I'm going to hopefully be a better mother-in-law because I've learned to bite my tongue so many times, like not say what I see or not say what I, not always comment. And I don't always succeed. I fail at it pretty often, right? I'm human. And the third thing, and I guess that's 1 and 2. The third thing is I really made a conscious decision that I never wanted academics to destroy my parent-child relationship. Meaning, and this is my perspective. This is just my perspective. If I have to butt heads over mathematics, how much negative energy or attention do I want? And I have to pick and choose. So that meant for us hiring other people to teach the kids. That was one thing we did, which obviously is now not an option. I think that we're also not homeschooling. I think we're crisis schooling, like we're reacting. So we're not set up for it. No one psychologically was ready to I'm a homeschooling mom and therefore I'm going to focus on these things. Like this is like thrown into our laps. Like no one planned it, expected it, thought of it, whatever. So I think we have to give ourselves some slack and we also have to make a choice. And I said to her, I really chose that as long as my kids were developing the fundamental skills that I would, as a parent, thought were most essential, like menschlichkeit and how they act to each other and being responsible and being curious and always wanting to learn, like the fundamental values and the important skills, reading, writing, like the skills that they need. I feel from there, they can always learn whatever they're really passionate about and they really feel driven to learn. And I have to say, I don't regret that. I don't regret that because I see with Laser and Menachem went into schools and label, maybe they had certain academic deficits and they caught up right away because their curiosity was there, their desire to learn was there. They weren't contrarians or anti-establishment or anti-school. And so it really, we like almost worked on their characters. And I think that big picture, like zoomed out, is more important than my kid getting an A on this level math. That was my practical takeaways, how I did it and how we're still doing it. Again, it doesn't mean I don't lose my cool. It doesn't mean whatever. I do all those things. I'm a normal mother or, whatever. But I think that, and I said this to this Chabad rabbi on a voice note, and she said to me, oh my gosh, Manya, that it was so important for me to hear that. So if it helps anyone, I think all these people with their beautiful, lovely schedules and when quarantine started, really? If you're still keeping it, kol hakavod. I know I changed for myself. I made 3 very clear goals for me. My goal, number 1, was making sure I'm davening every single day, that I'm giving myself the gift of connecting to Hashem through davening. And I can't always carve out the time. I don't always carve out the time. I need that. Number 1. Number 2, and it's a shift I needed to really, really own. really see that opportunity of connecting with Hashem through tefillah, through davening. Remember we talked about tefillah being tafel means like connection. It's our connection. And the second thing I really worked on is honestly starting to exercise for my own hair. And the third thing was making sure I'm cooking healthy, not healthy as in like we don't have cookies. I'm cooking nutritious, meals for everyone. Those are the three things that were like really real priorities that I added. You know what I mean? Like not by the fly, whatever. So I think all of us also, we have to pick our things. And I don't think this is an easy thing for anyone. And I think we have good days and bad days. And even with the most positive attitude and the best mindset, we're going to still, for me, I could still lose my cool. I was speaking to another friend. She said, me and my husband are killing each other, So we actually, her and I talked about it. Like, how do you navigate that? It's not simple for a lot of people. So everyone's got those complex layers and we gotta do the best we can. Just got to do the best we can.
Just out of curiosity, how do you spell davening?
Davening, go ahead.
Oh, is it D-A-V-I-N?
D-A-V-E-N-I-N-G.
Okay, then I spelled it.
Davening.
Oh.
Okay, I spelled it right then. Okay.
Prayer. Tefillah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Manya, what you were just talking about with your children, we've touched this theme, I don't know how many years now. And I just love this about you, about really, I think it was just 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were talking about this, about being, not what I am, not what I do, it's contrary to really American society, about our culture. It's, and I'm every time I talk, I seem to go back to this because this is something really big in my life that I really want to somehow detach gradually from, because I know if I detach too fast, it will backfire. But we want that balance where, yes, I need my children to have, their talents, embellished and opportunities and all that. I'm all for that. But at the same time, at the end of the day, when I'm no longer on this earth, I need my children to know who they are, what, how they can stand in the face of adversity. It's okay if I'm by myself and I'm bored. I'm not going to go insane or lose my identity because I can't ice skate anymore or something crazy like that. So, and I worry about so many kids and parents that get into this rat race. I'm still in the rat race. I recognize that, but I also recognize that I am slowly trying to get out of that. But I really appreciate you touching on that.
You know what?
Important for us to hear.
I think Sharon, to add to it, I think that one of these unique things that is happening, and again, that's literally not to discredit the pain, the suffering, the loneliness, it's real and it's painful. I just realized in the past, I think 8 weeks, I've been out of, between my house and Chabad, I've been out twice. And that's so weird for me, I'm an extrovert, like I'm with people all the time, right? So I think there's two things. On a personal level, it's getting to know our inner voice and really seeing, like for me, like I said last time, like just being at Chabad for hours on end with nothing going on was painful for me. So getting to know our own inner voice and then allowing our children to tap into their inner voice, right? And that they are so much more than the stuff and there's so much more to it than that. And I think that if we can figure out, through all of this, to find those moments where a kid can shine in a different way, it's not about, just like you said, the ice skating lessons are great. Of course, we shouldn't diminish them, but I'm saying your child isn't an ice skate, they're not a skater. They're, who do we want them to be? And I think as parents, sometimes I think this for all us, we just zoom out a lot. And I know this wasn't meant to be a parenting thing. We're going to talk about Pirkei Avot, but it kind of went into this. We have to zoom out a lot. And I find I have to do that. I zoom out and think, okay, like big picture, what are the memories I want my child to have at this time? Big picture. And it doesn't mean that every single incident is going to like set the kid off. Like if I lost my cool today, it doesn't mean that my whole family's going to look at this whole time together. Like I'm also human and that's okay. And you know what I mean? But like, I think if we zoom out enough and I say like, okay, our value, let's say, is to lay with the kids at night, to have a conversation with them or to spend time with them, right? So I could say like, oh, this week went by and I didn't do it yet. But okay, if, out of 52 weeks, if I've done it 3 times a week, that's a lot of quality time. So I got to try to zoom out. And that also helps us be a little less hard on ourselves, right? Because we're hard on ourselves as moms. I think like, I don't know, I feel like as moms, as women, we're being pulled in so many directions. I know, Sarah, you mentioned, even from your perspective, where like, you're not able to be there for your children and grandchildren in the same capacity. And that's really, that's not comfortable, you know? And some of us, we have to be there too much for in a different capacity, and that's not comfortable. And some of us are juggling too many worries. So I think we have to just like listen to her inner voice, allow it to guide us. It's like slow the pace down, and see what we could do. You know, one of the things that I think are really, really nice, and here's where we'll segue into like the Torah content a little bit, even though I think everything we're talking about, because at the end of the day, our children of this godly soul, we want to, and this purpose in this world, we want to help them. We want to help them find that and let it shine. And probably your daughter's purpose in existence is not to be an ice skater, right? Not again, right? If you had to think of like, you know, my daughter's golden mark on this world. And again, I'm not diminishing ice skating. I think ice skating's great. My kids love it. And everyone has to think of it. But like, you know, so it's an interesting thing. But right now, we're in the middle of, we talked about the Emor the past 2 weeks. 2 or 3, I'm not sure. We're now also, there's this very interesting journey that kind of parallels the journey from Passover to Shavuot. And so it's an added layer of learning. So what is it? We study basically Pirkei Avot, which means ethics of our fathers, which we'll talk about a little bit why it's ethics of our fathers, and that alone is interesting, and what it is. So basically every Shabbat from Passover till Shavuot, till we receive the Torah, it's a Jewish custom to study one chapter of ethics of our fathers, okay? So what is ethics of our fathers? It's literally, I would say, okay, the books of, there's 6 tractates, and there's in that 63 volumes of Mishnah. And I'll explain. Mishnah is basically in the 2nd century, Judah the prince, Yehuda Nasi, realized that the oral Torah was going to be lost. Exile was kicking in a major way. People were being dispersed. And the teacher-student connection of learning was going to be lost. So what the oral Torah, basically, when Moses received the Torah on Sinai, right, 40 days from Passover to Shavuot, 49 days, right, the 50th day he received the Torah, from the second night Passover to Shavuot. And Moses, the Jews were readying themselves. They get to Mount Sinai, and Moses goes on high. We know the famous story. He was there for 40 days and 40 nights, comes back with the tablets. We know that story, right? That narrative. But what else was going on Sinai? What was Moses doing for 40 days and nights? That's actually the part of, it's called the oral Torah. Torah Shebechtav, the written, is the 5 books, the books as we know them. Moses was the first scribe. And then comes Torah Shebaal Peh. Torah Shebaal Peh, literally Baal Peh means transmitted by mouth. Peh is a mouth. Okay, so what was this oral Torah? Basically, if you look at the Torah, if you look at the Shema, very famous, right? It says, you know, you have to love God with all your might, with all your soul, and it talks about education, and you should talk about these, you know, when you're sitting in your home, when you're going on your way, when you go to sleep, when you wake up. And then it says, you should bind it as a sign on your arm, and it should be a sign between your eyes. Right? You should put it on your doorposts, the mezuzah on your doorposts, on your gates. So that's a very amazing passage to kind of explain the fusion between the written Torah, that's written, that's in the Bible, it's written, and the oral Torah, which was transmitted teacher to student, face to face, because there's nothing like being in the presence of someone you're learning. This is wonderful learning together, but there's still a different energy than when you're learning face to face, okay? So when Moses was on high, not only did it receive the written Torah, could you give me a cup of water, please? Not only did it receive the written Torah, but also the oral transmission was given to Moses, and then Moses taught it further, which we'll talk about in a second, because actually Pirkei Avot opens up with how Moses transmitted the Torah. The oral section, boom, 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 teacher to student. So Moses gets both, so that what's written is kind of code, almost like if you know the code of a cell phone, you press enter on your button on your computer, there's so much code behind it telling it what to do. So the written Torah is code, and the short key, and all the information behind it is in the oral Torah. And so Torah was intentionally, thank you so much. Intentionally, God designed that was the way of Torah is, because there was such significance and so much hidden in the layers, so much depth hidden in the layers of every passage in each code that then needed to be unpacked and taught and explored, teacher to student. So like I said, 2nd century, Yehuda Nasi said, okay, this is out of fear, this would be lost. Judah the Prince, do you hear what's going on in the background? And this is with me hiding in a quiet spot. Enjoy.
What is that?
Can you not hear?
I can't hear what it is.
Someone's practicing piano.
Music.
Someone's practicing piano.
Is that one
It's
of your
very
kids?
far, it's very in the distance, but it's still,
Is
you
it
can
one of
still
your
hear it.
children?
Huh?
One of your children?
Yeah. It's actually, for some of them, it's a really good de-stressor. It relaxes them. So we let it roll. So I think that's what's interesting is, okay, so he documented in the six parts, the 6 tractates, and then under that there's 63 sections, okay, chapters. And in the chapters is passages. So it's actually interesting, Levi decided, Levi 2 years ago decided he's not learning enough in school. He wants to learn. So he started Mishnayos, and he actually just this week made his 10th siyum. A siyum is a party that celebrates finishing a section, a tractate, and he finished his 10th. So he said his goal is to do all by his bar mitzvah. So we'll find out. But and this is like his own learning.
So
We actually zoomed the grandparents in. He has a Hebrew-English book with translations, with explanations, and he's working through it. He's learning, so it's wonderful. So what is this ethics of our fathers? So is it clear the difference between the oral Torah and the written Torah and why it was documented at this point? Okay, and then all the discussions and the debates and the back and forth were like expounded upon, and that's known as the Talmud. So the Talmud includes the Mishnah and then all the commentaries and the debates and discussions, almost like documentation or court stenography of the discussions that were surrounding that incident that the Mishnah is referring to, which comes from the Torah. Does that make sense a little bit? If it doesn't, I can break it down again. But yes? Okay. I can also send out a quick little video explaining the difference between the Talmud and the Mishnah and the written Torah and the oral Torah. But I think that kind of hopefully explains, because going back to our example from the Shema, the passage in the Torah written in code says bind it. Bind what? Who binds? When do they bind? Now, we know it's talking about tefillin, but how do we know it's talking about tefillin? How do we know how tefillin are written, what they write, what's inside, who puts it on, when they put it on, what color it is, who writes it, how they write it? How do we know any of it? A mezuzah on a door. Yeah, it's a very beautiful mitzvah. Everyone should have one. How do we learn all about how? And that was in the oral transmission. Okay? So that's why, obviously, it's super important. But now comes this tractate, and it's called Ethics of Our Fathers. Now, a lot of the books of Mishnah deal with everything from the laws of marriage, divorce, agriculture, business, you name it. The cross-section of human experiences. The Mishnah has different sections that deal in each of the 6 books, Zorah and Maid, Nashim, the holidays, damages, laws of damages, purity and impurity, ritual purity and impurity. So each section, 6 sections, and then again, the tractates inside, or the sections inside, the volumes inside, total. So this one is Avot. Now, what is Avot? Avot literally means father, and it's ethics of our fathers, which means a father whose responsibility halachically is it to give an education to the children. A father, one of the 613 mitzvot is it's a father's job to educate his child. Teach him a trade, teach him how to swim, okay? Obviously, we all know as mothers, we're the nurturers, and we're certainly educating. And if we haven't before, we're doing it now as teachers and mothers, right? So we all know that. But so and Ethics of Our Fathers really deals with not the actual mitzvah, the how, the ethics and the values, the interpersonal values that come, not what to do as a Jew, how, the how. Meaning, okay, you know you have to be nice to people, right? Certainly, it's a mitzvah, it's in the Torah, just like we just read about it in the Torah. How do I translate that? So it's a lot of the how. And I once had a student come to me and she said, you know, she has to do, okay, bye Sharon, or you could listen in. Either way, we'll pick up with Pirkei Avot next week and hopefully on time. I had a student came to me, she was in the business school, she was doing a special report and she had to do this report on ethics and morals. And she was like, she's like, Manya, I need this like unique angle. Because I don't want my report to just be like everyone else's. I was like, well, let's do the Jewish business ethics. She's like, there's Jewish business ethics? I'm like, yes, it's called Pirkei Avot. And then for a few weeks, her and I studied Pirkei Avot weekly, and she was blown away by how the values in Pirkei Avot were so applicable to, in that, I don't know, maybe it was 2018, 2016, but to modern day business ethics laws and classes. And when she did her report, her professor was like, wow, this is such a unique angle, because the professor didn't realize, and this is not new code of business ethics. This is, as Jews, ethics and values that we're supposed to be observing for years. So it's the how. It's the how. It's how we greet our friends and how we judge people and how we handle life. And I think, if anything, this is so powerful to be learning now, and we'll continue with it the next few weeks. But I want to also say, I think, and feel free, you know, again, invite anyone who wants to join us for this. But aside from the how in that regard, I think it's like all the manners and all the values. There's also so many of these sayings that we're going to learn that you're going to be like, whoa, that's a Jewish saying? I didn't know that. Like, don't judge a book by its cover, a Jewish saying. Don't judge someone till you walk in their, in their footsteps, in Ethics of Our Fathers. So there's so many of these things that you're going to hear, and you're going to be like, wow, that's so cool. And they've been part of, as Jews, part of our heritage and our identity since the Torah was given, but in a documented format since the 2nd century. So it's really, really cool. Now, why we learn Ethics of Our Fathers at this time? Can anyone think, talking about considering the last time we studied together, yeah? We were talking about this time being powerful for self-refinement, right? And how the Jews were, can anyone think of like why we're doing Ethics of Our Fathers now? Jump in if you feel free.
Oh, I mean, it must have something to do with the Emor, but why now?
Yeah.
There are lots of other times too. There's, the Yomim Noraim between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and there's
right, right, or the month of Elul where we're getting ready for Rosh Hashanah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anytime's a good time to study ethics.
Yeah, I mean, getting ready to receive the Torah. This is before Shavuos, so
right. Okay, so Sarah, you actually touched upon 3 main points, so thank you. Well done. Unknowingly, right? So, okay, number 1, there's 6 weeks between Pesach and Shavuos, 6 Shabbats. That's very literally 6 weeks. The Ethics of Our Fathers has 6 chapters. Logistically, from a calendar perspective, it makes sense to study them now. We have to pick one time a year where there's a very identified time space to cover this. Perfect timing. Number 1. Number 2, as you mentioned, the Emor, we talked about self-refinement. We talked about taking that journey to get to a place where we're ready to receive the Torah, we're ready to receive our mandate in life, and how we get there. We talked about how the Jews, as they were journeying during those 49 days, so 7 weeks, which is 6 Shabbats, okay? Because we start after Passover. We talked about their journey for self-refinement to be ready to receive the Torah, because we said they had a slave mentality. They were not spiritually ready, emotionally ready, psychologically ready. So we're taking that journey with them as we count the Omer every single day. And then this gives us an opportunity to zoom in during this time where we're focused on self-refinement once a week to study this section of Pirkei Avot, this section of Jewish ethics, because it falls right in harmony with self-refinement. It's not just about me and my character, it's also how am I treating someone else? What's my mindset? And so truly, taking this journey together, Pirkei Avot and counting the Omer, are literally getting us ready for Matan Torah, receiving the Torah, Shavuot, why we're here as people. What's our point? Like, right, the Torah gives us our mandate, our guide, right? As we talked about in the past 2 classes. So that's one, logistically, from a calendar perspective. What we're working on anyway, so this is like an added boost. It's like if you're anyway working on, like let's say you're working on, pick something you're working on in your life. You're anyway working on exercise, you might as well also supplement with nutrition. Or you're working on better habits, you might as well also work, let's say, better habits. And I'm working on parenting, so I'm also going to watch this webinar on it, or this sign up for this parenting course on it, right? It's another supplemental powerful tool that we have as Jews to help us maximize and refine. Okay, so that's a second thing. And the third and final thing is, so we're taking that journey, we're learning it, it's 6 weeks. The third and final point you mentioned is, why wouldn't we do this during the Yamim Noraim, which literally means the days of awe, or leading up to Rosh Hashanah. So actually, the global community has this tradition to study, the global Jewish community to study Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Fathers, these 6 weeks. The Lubavitcher Rebbe actually instituted an added layer, is to actually continue the cycle until Rosh Hashanah. So Chabad actually studies it through the summer. We just repeat the cycle again and then again until Rosh Hashanah. Why is that? So that means not just the month of Sivan, but the month of Tammuz, the month of Av, and the month of Elul, those extra 3 and a bit months, to get more, because like you said, we're in this cycle getting, now we can't think Rosh Hashanah, but we're closer to Rosh Hashanah than we were, you know what I mean? So we actually continue that learning. And the Rebbe also said that a lot of times in the summer, people are more chilled, they're more relaxed, right? You can get laxed in your avodat Hashem and how you serve Hashem. You're on vacation mode. So we're never on vacation from Torah and ethics. So we should keep on doing it.
So quick question. So you say that you repeat it until Rosh Hashanah, but is it the same 6 weeks that you've been studying? You just keep going?
Yeah, it's the same 6
it's kind
chapters.
of a refresher, and then learn new things, pull new things from it? Because I know for myself, as I keep learning, going back over something, I always find new things that I had missed before.
Absolutely. I think, Tamara, you said exactly the mindset, right? The more you learn things, come on, you read a book once and then you read it again 5 years later and it's a different book. No, it's not a different book. You're different, right? Because we bring ourselves to the table in everything we're doing, right? So you're absolutely right. So we reread that chapter weekly, so that this way we're able to tap into something else. And maybe something's going to resonate with me this time that I didn't even notice last time. I read through last time. There's one more aspect, and I feel like I'm going to end with this, not because I want to end, but because I actually have, and I have a commitment and I think, let me just confirm. I have a commitment in 5 minutes for a half hour, something I committed to a while ago, and I'm doing a workshop for a girls' high school in Milwaukee. So I got to jump off to do that, a half hour workshop. But one of the things I wanted to mention is that we started doing, and the tradition is to say it, I mean, obviously you can learn it anytime during the week, is fine, specifically on Shabbat, because people have a little more time, people are able to be centered, more grounded, more time for Torah learning, the days are longer. on Shabbat ends later, right? So there's more Shabbat day. So the tradition is to say it during Mincha, which is like right after Mincha during the afternoon prayer. So we actually this week started, and I kind of mentioned to the kids past 2 weeks, and they weren't so on board, but I went with it this week, and it worked. It went. So I was like, I'll repitch it. I'll mention it. I see I get resistance. I back up. I mention it again. Bit by bit, they're like, oh, okay. It's not the worst idea. So our idea was everyone sat with their own Pirkei Avot book, and you can go online and find it. I can send a link. Chabad.org has it. It's any Siddur prayer book that has Hebrew and English will have it. If you don't find one, let me know. I'm happy to send to you. And print out a copy for everyone in the family, and let people sit for 10 minutes with the book and read through that chapter. And I actually then went around and I was like, everyone tell me one that resonated with you and why. That was it. One Mishnah. Now, I happen to be, they don't know that I'm going to do this yet, this Shabbat. Now that I got them on board for that, we have another few weeks. I'm going to do it again, 1 or 2 more times. I didn't get all 6 on board, but I got people on board. I'm going to then pair them up and make them teach us. Each group is going to pair, an older and a younger is going to pair up and teach us one of the Pirkei Avot, one of the Mishnahs. So there are ways to bring this to your family, to your home, to yourself. I happen to love learning Pirkei Avot because there's so many beautiful layers. And it also is always such a great reminder that as Jews, our code is of how we act is super significant and important. So what I was hoping we could do starting next week, and I mean, I was ready for this week, but I guess this is the introduction of sorts. Let's pick up, if everyone's on board, we could learn Pirkei Avot together. It's so meaningful. I love it. I really enjoy learning it. And if anyone has anything that they want to add to it, you want to prepare and share, this is, by all means, please feel free to get more involved. If your kids want to get involved, I'm not looking to give anyone any extra homework. Trust me. If anyone wants to, feel free. I think it's just a beautiful thing to do.
If you can direct us in the direction.
Sure. Of where where
to find this.
Absolutely. I'm going to send you. And actually, last week was week 3. Hold on. I'm going to get you a link, and I'm going to post it. Link to where you find it, because I think that there's whole mini websites about it. Vote. I'm going to send it to you because I realize that I'm definitely, I'm going to send you a link right now. There's a whole sub website on Chabad.org for Pirkei Avot, and you can absolutely print out the weekly section. And I wouldn't put too much pressure, but if it's something that can enhance your family, this is what we do as Jews, is we work on ourselves and we want to improve. It just could also be, what I think also the conversation.
If it's on here on Zoom and we close the screen, does it go away?
Yeah, but I can happily, I'm very, very happy to send it on WhatsApp.
Tamra, just copy it right now, and then you can put it into the Google Drive. The Google.
I just sent the group.
How do I do that?
You just copy it, highlight it and copy it. It's a right click, and then
I
into the Google search.
Oh.
So, Susanna, what were you saying?
I just sent the link. I copy and put in our group.
Thank you so much, Susanna. There you go. I was just trying to do it. It didn't work out.
So,
but really, there's loads. And I think actually, what also is so nice? I have to tell you something, and then I'm really going to wrap. But as a girl, we started learning Pirkei Avot in 1st grade. There are songs and lessons and values that I remember from 1st grade when we learned Pirkei Avot.
Wow.
There are songs, I'm telling you, there are things that I remember my teacher weekly would give us coloring sheets and turn on a tape recorder or a record, I don't even know, it was probably a tape recorder, with different songs of it. And there's stuff that still to this day stick with me from there. So I think it's just it's it crosses any age. Okay, to be continued. I got to jump on. Got to jump off and then jump on. We'll see you guys next week.
I also took a photo of it.
Awesome. There you go. We got all the hacks, all the technology, and we'll be in touch tomorrow. Everyone
I'll
else
see you
in touch.
guys. Bye. See you
Bye,
tomorrow.
Everyone.
Bye, everyone.